All right, welcome Monday morning to the Zoom Laboratory. We're a smaller but mighty group today. I want to first thank Andrew for stepping in last week while I took time off. I will say that if you have not found a way to do that, I don't think that probably any of us understand how tired we are, not just trying to lead people in gathering communities and make those decisions and do that well, but just on top of everything else, us individually, personally having to kind of deal with everything that's going on, depending on what home life and all that is like. So thank you, Andrew, for doing that. It was glorious. I was actually unplugged for a straight 2 days, which was kind of nice. And the church service went off just fine. All right, so welcome, folks, for Monday morning. If you haven't been here before, I'm Bruce, and we kind of started this when all of this COVID-19 thing started happening, and really wanted to focus on using Zoom as a platform for worship and other gatherings. So we do also have a Facebook group that if you are part of that group, you notice I changed the name this past week. So it's now called Zoom Faith, and we have lots of other traditions that have become part of the group, and so it's really exciting. It's a group that, like, there's very little moderation. I go through every once in a while, just add topics and make sure that people aren't selling stuff and those kind of things, but it's really a great group who have I think have been gentle and generous with each other, which I think has been lovely. So feel free to keep inviting people. I think we're like over 1,200 people in that group now, which is just wild. Lots of great resources, people who know things about certain parts of Zoom far better than I or others. I bring to this, I'm a practitioner and just kind of trying to figure this out along with many of you. So the way that we roll with this on Mondays is I walk through the service that we did just as a way to prime the pump, talk a little bit about what we're doing, and then just kind of open it up. And today, the topic I'd like us to talk about is what we're thinking about, whatever this word next means, or when we return. And I know that's highly contextual, but I'll ask some questions. I'd like for us to spend some time having that discussion to just begin to help each of us think about those kind of things. So again, I'm going to run through this real quick because for those of you that this is your first time here, I will also say I didn't send out a reminder this time or invite the group. So I wonder if our numbers are a little low because of that, but I'll try and do better about that next week. So first off is I'm the pastor at First Presbyterian Church of Palo Alto. I've been doing online for a while, so this was not a difficult transition for me to make, and we did this pretty early. So here's what we do every Sunday. We open our gate. We start at 9:30 with all the worship leaders. We're now up to about 12 people that come in at 9:30. Who helped lead parts of the worship service in a variety of ways. We do that at 9:30. We pray at 9:50. And then at 9:55, our musician starts playing, and we let people into the waiting room where they are greeted with this slide. All right, and then I just want to show you my setup, just as you are thinking about setup. I've stripped down quite a bit in terms of where I'm set up, and the reason that I have these kind of massive lights is because I'm backlit by my backyard. It's really hard to live in California right now, where it's like 60 degrees at 10 o'clock in the morning. But so I do all my services in the backyard, which is kind of cool. And so I have these kind of lights in front of me, and I just went ahead and did the swing arm and shock mount for my blue snowball, which I love. I'm not using it right now, but it's awesome. So if you are looking at this is long term and you want to think of I think of some toys, but also some things that are really practical. I found the swing arm to be great because it forces your eyes up to your camera a little bit more. You don't have to be quite as conscious of that. But there you go. There's my setup, just in case you wanted the little background. And you notice I'm plugged in on the right side. I'm plugged into my into the Ethernet, and then have the microphone and my power on the other side there, and my other second computer is on the right. Communion elements and our chime that we use at the beginning of service. All right. So we do welcome and announcements. I just do a few. We have two guests generally each Sunday. So an offering person from the community telling us what's going on or somewhere, and then we try to bring a music person often, and then a few things. Really been focusing on getting people to sign up for our mailing list and be on our social media because we have no other way to contact people at this point. So we're really trying to focus on that. And then I just do a few announcements now. We've started to put in kind of what's going on. Key thing is make sure you read all your and proofread all your things because we had typos this week. And anyway, so a couple of the announcements that we're doing, we're trying to keep a little consistent. I do a little bit of Zoom kind of reminding. I think these are pretty new or pretty similar to what we've done before. We weren't recording until about 3 weeks ago, and we've started recording, and so these are all things that we've done. We continue to do, and I remind them every week. We just do this every week because we have new people every week, and then just walk through the service itself. Again, we don't send out a bulletin. One, this just extra work for us to do, but we've tried to shift people just to kind of focus. So, I don't know if you're in a position to stop sending bulletins. Some of you may do that still, but we found folks have not missed it as much as maybe we thought. Then we do a centering chime, remembering the land upon which we are living. Using this expansive understanding of the table is kind of our theme during this time. It's very fascinating to talk about. It's not just the land that our sanctuary is on, but now it's like, where are you sitting at this particular moment and who has been there before you? Do an opening prayer. We rotate that between our three parish associates. Then we do a hymn. Our hymns we do, Andy plays, and then we mute everybody, and that seems to work out really fine, really well. So there's our hymn. Then we do confession, and I just do the one. Our liturgist does the many. Bum, bum, bum. We do a passing of the peace, and then we do our first visual. So we switch out. We'll switch to gallery view. I tell everybody to smile, scroll. I unmute everybody, so it's this cacophony of hellos and looking at people, and everybody's searching for folks. The best thing is always when a member of ours or somebody sees a relative that happened to join us that particular Sunday, which we're finding more and more of each Sunday, which I'm sure many of you are seeing as well. So I do the reveal, and then we do our reading. This is really important to have a second screen or to make sure that you're understanding delays. So I read always off of a second screen, so I know what people are seeing and experiencing because there's a delay. So as I'm advancing slides, or whoever's advancing slides, and we know our folks are reading off of it, I want to make sure that there isn't that awkward pause because we've waited too long. So that's just one of the tips that I would suggest is looking, if folks are reading along, is to look at your second screen and not at your primary screen when you're advancing slides for hymns or anything else. And then my sermon is 10 minutes-ish long. Give everybody a chat room question and tell them they have permission to go ahead and talk during the sermon as much as they want. And say we focused on issues of struggle and sacrifice and really acknowledging that our people are tired no matter where they are in the context they're in. So there's the sermon. Pray, do a hymn. Then we bring in an offering person, so somebody that we support or we believe in. We have somebody come in. This is a great resource if you all have not figured out how to bring people into your Zoom conference, your Zoom meetings. Nonprofits, people who are doing frontline work, they're eager to be involved, and so you can bring folks in to do your offering. And we also just we had an online offering before, but we just got our approved and set up with the Presbyterian Foundation. So, and that's worked out really well just in a week. Really, really positive impact. So I would encourage you to do that if you are interested in upgrading or changing your online giving. And then we brought in a pastor from Houston to come in and do our special music just to sing a song, which was kind of cool. Then we do a prayers of the people. I remind them all about how we do it. So ours, everybody's on, and they use the raise hand at the bottom of the participants list, and one of our tech deacons calls on them and unmutes them. So I'm really clear. I'm like, just Karen will say your name and then mute you, and you just lift up your prayer. I do a little bit of recap to have everybody make sure they pray for that particular thing, and then Karen is looking for the next person. Prays in the chat room too. And then we go back to speaker view. And that's really the end of our time doing slides. And so the thing that we changed this time, and I'm going to go back a little bit, is we had sometimes I would do this offering slide, tell them about the person, and then stop sharing and go back to that person. This time I tried, I just did all 3 intro slides back to back to back, and then we just never came back to the slides. So I talked about who was going to do offering, and then I talked about who was going to do our music, and then I talked about prayers of the people, and then we revealed, and then we never come back to the slides. So we haven't post-mortem worship yet to see how that felt, because I still introduce things verbally. So we're going to play with whether that's just one less transition that we have to make, which I'm all up for getting rid of transitions. So there you go. And then we do prayers of people, communion, charge, benediction. That's all to the end. They don't see this slide. This is just as a reminder for us that we're almost at the end of the service. All right. So there you go. I'm going to stop sharing. So let's do first, go ahead. If you have any questions about just general questions, I want to spend a little bit of time sharing how things went this particular Sunday for you all. If you have any questions at all, no matter where they may be, put them in the chat room. You can ask them here, and then we'll move on about halfway through. We'll move on, and I want to start talking about what is next. So, thoughts, questions. I am looking for hands raised if you want to use the button in the participants thing. And we're asking folks, if I call on you and unmute you, if you would just remind us who you are and kind of where you're serving, that would be awesome. So how things go. All right, Kristen, you are unmuted. Go for it.
Yeah. Question I have, I don't know why we're having so much trouble. We finally got up the organ music that we could play, but we can't be on the slides. And I know people have embedded into the slides on the music, but we can't seem to make that happen. And I don't know what we're missing. I think it's a 2 or 3 step process. And now I'm trying to go back and find all the old Zoom lists, and I can't. It's just, it's crazy trying to search.
Yes,
it's more time
exactly.
searching than asking the question.
So let me make sure before we'll have somebody answer that. So you've recorded your organ music?
Yes, and we're playing it in prelude, postlude. We're not doing it during the service, but at that point, we have to take the slides down in order to bring them back, and at least in the prelude. And that is, yeah. So we're trying to embed it, but it's not, yeah.
Right, I'm going to ask, so can you tell me first, where are you serving?
Oh, I'm in Bronx, New York.
Okay.
I've been doing this for how many weeks now? A long time.
Yeah, prayers for you. And then what computer are you using? What's your technology? You're on a Mac, a PC, or a Chromebook?
I'm on a PC.
Okay, great. All right.
But I'm not sure. The slides might be off of a Mac. I'm not sure because I don't do the slides.
Okay, great. I'm going to ask, so we don't do any recording, and I'm on a Chromebook. I may, for those of you that know me, I'm a huge Chromebook supporter, but I may be getting a Mac. Ugh. So pray for me. But because we don't record. Susan, I see you laughing. Because we don't do any recording. I actually like not recording just in general, but so those of you that can answer this question, can you just go ahead and jump in? Go ahead and unmute yourself and introduce yourself and Bruce, try to respond to this.
This is Scott.
Okay, go for it, Scott.
Good morning. So I'm Scott Clark. I'm serving in the Bay Area in Marin County. Our hymns are live, but for our prelude and our offertory, we've started using recorded music. Our musician records them as an MP3 or MP4,
right?
Sends them to me, and then we use PowerPoint. So even though I'm using a Mac, that's the Office product. And you can just on the slide, you can click on the slide, and you can insert a sound file.
Right.
Is one of the things. Far. Yeah, and then you just click on that and it should just go right in there, and a little ear thing appears on the screen, and then there are a couple adjustments. I check the volume on the playback, And then also there's a thing to check as to how it interacts with the slides.
I think that's what we're missing. I think that's the piece, because when he does it, he hears it. But when he does it, when we're practicing, we don't.
Then
It's faint.
the other thing is, there is, when you do your share
Right.
on the PowerPoint at the bottom left, there's a thing you have to click as you're sharing. You know, when you pick which one of your screens you want to put up, or which
Right.
option, that says use original sound or something like that. And that lets other people hear what you're showing.
And that's on the PowerPoint or on the Zoom?
Zoom.
That's on the
On the
Zoom
Zoom.
share, the
So-
Zoom share screen.
Yeah. It's actually not original sound, but you use computer sound.
Use computer sound. There you go.
Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
I'll double
Great.
check with him on that to make sure that's done.
Great. Thank you. All right. I'm going to
Thank
move
you.
on. Judy, you are unmuted and go for it.
I just wanted to add one piece to that.
Mhm.
If you are,
Can introduce yourself real quick and where you're
oh,
serving.
sorry, I'm Judy Brandon. I'm from UCC Greenewalds in Allentown, Pennsylvania. And in addition to that, if you are also then projecting in PowerPoint the lyrics to the hymn that you're trying to play, you'll want to check as you set up PowerPoint that play across the following slides.
Oh, great. Thank you.
Play across the following slides. We can do that. Okay.
Yeah, there's
Awesome.
on the top ribbon in the top, it allows you to set some of the requirements, how it does the playback.
So I do the slides. I send it to my slide person. He inserts the music. He has to hit the music there, and then the Zoom computer audio.
Right. But if he's using PowerPoint, when you set up the PowerPoint,
Yes.
if you're doing lyrics, I don't know if you're doing that or not, but if you're doing lyrics in the successive slides, you, in the first slide where the little icon for the earphone is, you can set the parameters for playback. And one of the selections allows it to continue to play while you advance the successive slides, which have the lyrics on it.
Wonderful. Thank
Awesome.
you.
Great. Thank you. I see. So let's keep moving on. If I think we're good on that one. And the other questions, let me scan real quick. I see Catherine, you are unmuted. Go for it.
So just one final thing. I think you can also set that up to play immediately when you hit that slide, so that you don't have to then click the thing once you get to the slide. You just have it play the song once you go advance to that slide.
I am not going to like going to Mac because our folks want to record and play that stuff. And I'm like, come on, let's just keep doing live. Anyway, my own issues. All right, let's keep going. Any other questions, thoughts about things happened this Sunday that you want to lift up, or again, questions, no matter how technological or not. This is a group that everybody has done a lot of things. I think we're pretty broad in terms of our experience. All right, I may not have lowered your hand, Catherine. Did you have another question?
I do.
No.
I just have a question.
Okay, go for it.
When you're using breakout rooms, this is just very quick. When you're using breakout rooms, I understand you can set a time limit on how long you want people to be in the breakout room. I don't know where that is. Does somebody just quickly know where to do that when you're setting that up? So
Anyone?
Okay,
Go ahead and jump in.
I'll follow that up on the thread on the Facebook.
So what I've done is just announce.
Go ahead and introduce yourself and say who you are.
Yeah, Jeff Spencer, Niles Discovery Church, which is a UCC DOC congregation in Fremont, California, across the bay from Bruce. When I've done breakout groups that I want to have time limited, I've told people as I've sent them into it how long they will have. And then when you call them back in the breakout rooms, you can set it so how much time, there's sort of a countdown till the breakout rooms end. And so I haven't seen a setting. I've had to watch the clock myself.
Great. Perfect. Thank you. Very helpful, Jeff. Great. All right, Holly, you are unmuted and go for it.
Question about, you had said,
and where are you serving?
I'm sorry. I am at UCC Seneca Valley in Germantown, Maryland.
Great. Welcome.
And you had said you had the dual screens in terms of being able to monitor what everybody sees, and then also still deal with your slides. How do you do that? Because I have not been able to figure that out.
So you just log in. So there's a couple of ways to do it. So our church, we have 2 paid accounts just because we had started kind of all over each other with meetings and all that kind of stuff. So if you have 2 accounts, you just log in under the second account. You can also even log in under your same account, but what you're seeing is the delay, and you're seeing what everybody else is seeing. So you can log in even under the same account. The key is to log in on your main computer first, so you're the host, and then log in and join the meeting on the second computer, and then make yourself a co-host if you want to do that. That way it stays at the top of the screen. So there's multiple ways you can do it. You can log in twice under the same account as long as you log in first on your main computer, or you can just log in on a different account as a guest. All you're trying to do is see what are other people seeing. So there you go. Awesome. Great. Susan, go for it. Yep.
I have a related question.
Yep.
So, and I'm laughing at Bruce because our house is Mactastic. Although there are
Whatever.
people who've been enjoying their Google phones and the fancy cameras that they get on those and amazing photographs.
You met people.
But one of the challenges I've had, so I'm working off a MacBook, and my second screen, I've tried to use either an iPad or an iPhone, and I cannot mute the microphone sufficiently on that second device to not get an echo.
Oh.
The best I've been able to come up with is plug in earbuds and then bury the earbuds under pillows. Does anybody know how to shut off the microphone on the second device?
I don't know. I kind of like your approach.
Just asphyxiate your computer. Are you
Bruce is
logging
showing
in?
his fancy setup with his lights and his microphone. I've got pillows stacked over earbuds.
Yeah, exactly. Well, you don't see what's outside the frame. I'm very much about setting up the anyway. So, are you logging in under the same account on both of them?
Yeah, that's a good question. For the second one, I'm just following the link, so I don't know if it recognizes me.
I don't think it should matter, but because I do both, I use the same account. I've used the same account for both of them, but it might be that when you log under the same account on both of them, that it's impacting that. But I wonder about logging into a different Zoom account or logging out on your other device and then hitting the link. The other thing, if it's a registration link, that's a unique link to you, so it's going to probably do your original account. It still doesn't seem to make sense that you can't, like, your platform itself doesn't mute, but other folks
I think it's a hardware
this.
issue.
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. I mean, other experienced people, have you all seen this, experienced this, have questions other than burying your headsets? Which, hey, if it works. Anyone else? Just jump in if you have. Go for it.
Sorry, I'm Nick Warwick. I'm in New Jersey at a Presbyterian church there.
Great, welcome, Nick.
If you in your down where the audio settings are, you can remove yourself or leave the computer audio, and it will not allow any audio to go to that device. So the microphone won't work, nor will the speakers work. But if you're just using it as a video monitoring device, it will pull that all away from that. So that's how we actually, for a family thing, my daughter had her own device, and I just pulled her out of that, and it was picking up from my microphone and things like that. So it works. Yeah, we've worked it a couple times, but that's how to fully remove yourself from the audio thing altogether. Work there.
And can you do that on an Apple mobile device?
I believe so. I don't have a. I'm with Bruce. I'm not a. We are not an Apple house.
Yeah. See, Apple. This is my challenge. I've had my second Apple device muted.
And it
still has a feedback loop.
Yeah, no, you need to remove the device audio altogether from it. I know I can do it on my Android phone, so we've done it on there. We've done it on Chromebooks. And
how do you remove audio other than muting?
If you go down to where it says mute, I forget where's my phone?
I think it literally says leave computer audio or leave.
Or you don't. Yeah, that's it.
Okay.
There you go.
All right, I'll give it a try. Thanks.
All right, thank you. All right, I'm seeing John. You have a question? You are sorry. You are unmuted. Go for it, John.
Thanks, Bruce. This is John Bassinger Flores from the Unitarian Universalist Church of Studio City. Just a comment about that question about the looping sound problem. If you turn down your volume, like completely turn off the volume on one of those devices and mute it as well, that might prevent the sound loop happening.
Yeah. Great. Okay. Thank you. All right. Other questions? And I want to move us on to onto a topic if there's anything else. Somebody just raised a question in the chat room about the snowball mic versus the just the mic on their computer. My take is it's always going to be better. I love the snowball for its price point. If you are looking for one, it's great. I'm going to upgrade to another one just because I like to do that. So I think it's an ideal mic. I know a lot of people are using it. They're kind of out of stock in a lot of places. So I really appreciate it. I think if you're leading something in particular, your sound should be as ideal as possible. And I've just found that microphones off of your computers are just not as clean and clear. So, but that just might be personal. I don't know if anybody else feels that. Somebody else has a Blue Yeti, yeah, so you can upgrade. And I'm going to a Rode Podcaster if anybody's interested in the next bit of tech that I'm going to jump to. So
fancy.
It is fancy. I know it is totally fancy. It's obnoxious, but I don't know. Anyway, okay. So any other questions going on? Let me look for some hands here. Go ahead and raise a hand if you have any. And then I'm gonna talk a little bit about what we're doing in church, and then I would invite people to just maybe 30 seconds, a minute of kind of what are you thinking about what's next and how you're gonna do this. I'm looking for hands if there's any more. If there's any last questions, technical, other stuff. Go ahead, Elizabeth. You are good to go. Go ahead.
I'm Beth Wyman. I'm from Boston, Presbyterian.
Great.
Boston.
Welcome.
So I have probably what's a basic question.
That's all right.
Screen share our bulletin. And this week we wanted to screen share the bulletin while we were playing, and we tape our music ahead of time. And we couldn't do that. We couldn't figure out how to do that.
So give us a little bit so what slide program are you using and what kind of computer do you have?
Oh dear. So
that's all right.
Oh, we have a Mac.
Okay. So you're probably are you using Keynote or PowerPoint?
Well, we're not using either one.
You're not using either. Right. Oh, I get what you're saying. So you're just trying to screen share.
What I'm hearing is we should PowerPoint our bulletin or whatever.
Not necessarily. I just want to make sure. So you just want to screen share the bulletin while the music is playing behind you.
Yeah.
Okay.
We weren't able to do that.
Okay. I think you should be able to, but I'm going to throw this back out to folks because we're not using recorded at this point. So I know our live is playing while our screen share is on, and that works out fine. Do we want to jump in on this, or is there a quick response about the recorded music while you're screen sharing? Somebody jump in. I need a crickets.
I mean, I'll just throw out what I think is the question. So I still use.
And introduce yourself and where you.
I'm sorry, Andrew Yeager Buckley, and I'm with Central Presbyterian in Louisville, Kentucky, and we still take the approach of keeping the media separate. So I play any audio files off of an audio player, and then we will have our slides, which is in Google Slides, which is no different than PowerPoint, but during the action of clicking the share button, I'm able to say that I want to play, I want to show this screen, but I want to also play audio off of my computer, or I think it says enable computer sound. And so you could share. It doesn't have to be PowerPoint. I mean, it can just be a PDF file. It can be a Word document. It could be anything that you pull up. So it could be the bulletin file itself, but in the background, you can still play the audio. Any audio you play on your device could also be shared simultaneously. So I don't know if that don't know if that makes things more confusing or or if that helps at all.
So we shared the bulletin and played the music off of the same computer, but it sounded muffled.
So did you make sure to share computer audio sound?
Share, yes.
You did. Okay.
Yeah, because if we took the screen share off for the bulletin, the music was fine. It's just we couldn't do both simultaneously.
Interesting.
I wonder if it's a bandwidth issue. If you just have a lot of information compared to how much your internet service provider can provide.
Oh, I think we have a really good internet source.
Okay.
Not worried about that.
Okay. Well, I'm sorry we couldn't solve that for you, but if anybody has some ideas, please feel free to offer those. And again, this might be a good question, Elizabeth, if you wanted to offer it in the Facebook group.
I did offer it in the
You did? Okay. Did anybody get back? No. So much for us being helpful. Good job,
Which is
y'all.
why I raised my hand.
That's all right. You know, we do not know all. But hopefully, so somebody think about this and go ahead and poke it back again in there in the group. Somebody, I'm sure, will try to help you figure it out. And somebody on this group is now musing in their head, and it's going to be with them all day, and then they're going to remember. Here's what it is. All right. So let's shift a little bit. And I want to talk a little bit about kind of what folks are thinking about next. And so I want to give you a little bit of insight about what we're thinking about and what we're doing. And then I'd love to open it up. Take 30 seconds-ish to introduce yourself, where you're from, and then kind of what are you musing about. I think there's some opportunity to do this. I also know there are some plans in the works for some gatherings to begin to think about this a little bit more in the next few months. So I think this is an important thing for us to begin to think about. So let me tell you a little about. So First Presbyterian Church in Palo Alto, we are meeting tonight, a special session meeting. I know that how communities are responding to COVID-19 and shelter in place is highly contextual. So you all are going to have to translate for wherever you are. California, we're extended through May, and in our area in Northern California, we have generally been really good. The curve has been flattened. We are, I think there's this national tone of people kind of starting to ease out, which is even happening here. But for the most part, people have been really good. Our community has been good, all that kind of stuff. But we are meeting this particular tonight to actually make the decision to what I think the motion at this point is to announce that we're not going to even think about coming back until 2021. Because we kind of feel like that's the reality. We can pretend that we're gonna come back in the fall, but even in our space where we can fit 200 people in a sanctuary, if you're going to have to social distance in the fall, there's two things, right? One, we're probably going to get 30 people in a sanctuary, maybe. And because we're looking at 10 feet distance, because remember, if you're going to sing, your distance has to be further than 6 feet. So that's if you're going to sing, because we know that the choir at the Presbyterian Church in Washington was doing everything that they were supposed to do, and they were still a center of the spread. So that's one thing, is we're not going to be able to get our 100-ish people in there anyway. And two, our older folks have said to us, Zoom has been so good, why would we come back until we knew that it was really going to be safe? And I don't begrudge them at all. So so our session is going to take that all very seriously. And we're going to just say, okay, I don't know if this is going to happen or not. 2021, we're just going to, and that frees us up to figure out how we do this church thing in this new normal that is going to last years. So that's kind of where we are. So we're starting to talk now about how do we use what we've created in the Zoom space and worship to expand who we are as a church, and no longer think about this in any way as short term. We got to hybridize in 3 months, but we're just going to keep doing this and use it as a launching pad for who we are going to be in the future, which means a website redesign, staffing configurations, I mean, there's just kinds of things. So that's kind of where we're headed, is using the Zoom experience in order to just to really claim being church together, as if we were worshiping the sanctuary, and make that decision so it kind of frees us up to keep being the church in the way that this particular community wants to be. So that's kind of where we are. We had started to talk about hybridized experiences, but what I think we're going to come down to is maybe I'll be in the sanctuary with kind of a DJ table set up and with the computer and lights and all that, and maybe 2 or 3 people will be there, but we're not looking at saying we're going to try to create an in-person worship service. At least I don't think that's what we're going to do, because some of our folks have just said they're probably not going to come. And if we have to be 10 feet apart in a sanctuary and there's like, who gets to come? Like, do we do a lottery of like rotating people that if 15 people at a time get to show up? So that's where we are. All right. I would welcome some thoughts on what you all are doing, questions for me if you have any, but just share kind of where you are in this. I think we have to lead our people. And so would love if you want to share and muse about things now. This seems to be a group that could do it. So go ahead. I'm going to call on Scott first and then MB. Go ahead, Scott.
So I'm Scott Clark from First Presbyterian Church San Anselmo, and my context is not too different from Bruce's. So we're in different parts of the Bay Area, but I serve a congregation that is very pro-sheltering, has been on board before it was actually legally required, and that has fallen in love with Zoom. They're energetic and excited, and have some like 90-year-olds who haven't been to church in years who are now able to participate, and that's exciting, not just for them, but for other folks. I wouldn't mind getting to the point where Bruce is. What we did was last Tuesday at session, I started the conversation and told them we're not making any decisions tonight. We're just going to start. But and I've been using the Gavin Newsom model because I watch him, our governor, every day at noon while my partner and I eat our lunches. But to think of it, I started using the phrase, this isn't a matter of weeks, it's a matter of months. So to kind of get them off of, hey, maybe we'll be back for Pentecost, which we're not going to be. So now the horizon's out at least through the summer. So everybody, we know that we're going to be there during summer just by that. And folks were fine with that. There wasn't anything. But to get them to thinking about that we'll be moving through and making decisions, always looking at how the world has changed, looking at the evidence around what's allowed. And I started by saying, if I watch Governor Newsom, even when we're permitted to come back, we need to be aware that when you're making that decision, then over 50% of the congregation may not be able to come back because they still may be under the sheltering order, thinking of folks who are higher risk, people over 60, and anybody with pre-existing conditions. And some of the things that are most important to us will still have precautions on it, namely singing and communion. So my goal is to get the conversation started, and boy, my email box lit up the next day. So I was successful on that. But what people heard was, Scott said we won't be singing when we come back to worship.
Scott, you're so mean.
I know. And I've been so pro singing during the whole experience, but it was really helpful because it broke folks loose, and they're excited about talking now, and having some clarity. So I think that we'll think through all the hybrid things, and we'll probably end up where Palo Alto is.
Maybe we'll see if our folks are.
Yeah. So
all right. Thank you, Scott. Great. All right. MB, go for it. You are unmuted and your hand lowered. Go for it.
I am in a completely different context. MB McCandless in Northwest Ohio. I serve 2 congregations and have 1, maybe 2 others sort of piggybacking onto what we're doing because they're all small churches. And I've been doing the same thing, using that language of that just helps people push things out. And the conversation I've been most interested in is the one around singing, because when you start to share that information about how much more dangerous singing is than just speaking, And then you start to imagine singing with a mask on and singing socially distanced, and and even if that's even possible, and our congregation, our space is smaller, so even if we come back, we're not going to be in the sanctuary. We're probably going to be in our fellowship hall, where we can actually maybe get 2 more people in there than we could upstairs, because pews don't make any sense for this social distancing thing, which is yay, because I may be able to get rid of pews in one place. But anyway, I'm thinking in terms of, how do these Zoom communities continue to evolve, and then what do we do that's different? Maybe this summer we'll do like a once a month outdoor something that people who feel comfortable doing that can come to. Then maybe we do a lot of creative things in terms of larger event planning for fall, which will all be online. And then maybe I don't think it's going to be a hard sell to not come back, even if things open back up in the fall, because right now they're still saying, groups over 10, but they have this exception for churches, because we have a bunch of people in Ohio and Michigan and all around here who are, all about my own individual personal liberty. And I am just getting really frustrated with that. And I'm trying to shift the whole conversation back to community and how we care for each other. And I think that's going to be the key in our churches, and that's going to maybe transform how we approach everything. So I don't know if that was helpful at all.
Great.
But
Thank you. No, thank you. Thank you. I mean, I think it's important to know every community, municipality are offering different ways of being. You all having to navigate, wherever you are. All right. I see a couple hands. Somebody had his hand raised. Nick, did you have your hand raised? I might have lowered you accidentally. Do you still have a question? Or are you good?
No, I realized it myself. I'm good. I think
okay, good. Great. Thank you. All right. Let's go to Kristen, and then I'll do Catherine right after that. Go ahead, Kristen. There you are. Kristen, go ahead and unmute yourself. Banberg.
Yep. Okay. Question I have for this group, and one of the things in going forward, I mean, we're still in New York City. I mean, it's still like, no school, there's nothing. I mean, no summer programs. Things are really just still very closed. The question I have is, we had new members coming, and out of the 6 of them, 1 of them needed baptism, and then we didn't have church. So we have an adult baptism. And the question is, how's everyone dealing with this? I'm thinking that maybe we could do a distance where the couple would come in and everybody else is on Zoom and the other members are on Zoom. But how to do baptisms at this point? I'm not even talking about an infant. I'm talking about an adult who would like to be engaged in the church ministry.
Okay, so
anyway, but
Jeff Spencer is not helpful in the chat room because he has offered super soakers as an option. Apparently, the whole communion question, right? Originally, for Presbyterian, I don't know what the UCCs did, but I know Lutherans, Episcopalians have been a little more strict. We were strict at the beginning, and then Presbyterians, we kind of said, in extraordinary times, you may do this. Right. I got called out at a meeting recently. Apparently, I was part of that conversation that tweaked some people. Whatever. There is a baptism. So I've been talking with some people who are doing an infant baptism.
Okay.
And they shall remain nameless at this point because they're deciding whether they want to do it. And they happen. So here's how it will, if it goes down, here's how it's going to go down. Is that the ordained person will be on one side of the Zoom, and the family, so we'll be saying all the words. They have ordained, the parents are ordained elders. So they're going to be doing the actions, and the siblings and everybody around them are going to be doing the water. And I just am like, I got getting teary thinking about what that might look like. So it's not in person. They're going to do it over Zoom. And I said, can you please record it? And then we can share it. But so the ordained person will be, again, doing the liturgy, saying the words. they're going to have other members of the family zoomed in so that they can participate in the litanies and the liturgy. But the actual water and laying out of hands and anointing and whatever they're going to do will be done by the parents who happen to be ordained elders. So they're able to have some wiggle room in there. So they're not having to have that question. But that's one way that I know a church is going to do it in the next couple of weeks.
I think that's great. I'm just looking at the adult baptisms where we don't have the elder family members. In other words, that's a tough one.
Yeah, I mean, I think.
Although I like the idea, can we do super soakers, like shoot it across the sanctuary? I mean, that might be an idea.
I suppose that is an idea. That is true.
That was a joke, everyone.
These days, at this point, it's like, oh, we're gonna try whatever we want. All right. Anybody want to chime in on this? And I'm gonna go ahead and pull another question. Have any thoughts about baptism? It's particularly for us Presbyterians, baptism, communion, our two sacraments. But I'm seeing an actual hand raised. Judy, go for it. Unmute yourself and respond.
Okay, so last year we did what was called Water Sunday. We sent out containers at the beginning of the summer and had people gather water from every place they went over the course of the year. So we have water, and then we collected it back in the fall. We did special events both Sundays, the sending and the receiving. And in my office, I have a container of that water that was boiled, okay, and strained to purify it. And I also we just had an infant born in the congregation, and we haven't talked about this, but as you're speaking about what you might do about the adult baptism, I would think that maybe the clergy could gather the water and bless it and then send it out in a container to be used by the family. Or in my case, I will share some of that water with the family to use that particular water, so they are in effect blessed by the entire congregation who has in the past collected that.
Great, thank you. All right, Catherine, you've had your hand up for a little bit. Why don't you go for it, Catherine King?
Right, so thank you. I'm in Michigan. I'm in a Presbyterian church in Michigan. And I want to say, I guess I'm just throwing this out to get some encouragement from some colleagues on the call. First of all, I really appreciate what was said earlier by Scott about the languaging with session. In Michigan, and you've seen this, I'm sure, on the news. I think it's been in the national news. This is a very tense time here. With people strapped with all kinds of artillery, storming the rotunda at our state capitol, and Gretchen Whitmer, our governor. So what I'm conceiving of here is, from the beginning, I've been trying, our session and I have been trying to lead by example. We have not done anything in the sanctuary. We went home to show that we are really in support of sheltering at home. And supporting what not just our governor, but what science and what the best wisdom on this seems to be. And I'm wondering if this isn't also an opportunity to lead through this. Our congregation is also really taking well to Zoom. We have more people, I think, in our Zoom worship than we probably would exactly at this time in our sanctuary. And so we have been learning so much from all of you. So anyway, I guess I just am throwing out, is this not also an opportunity to, the way you said it, Scott, about really our congregation too is a congregation that supports sheltering in place, not forever, right? But I mean, for now, I mean, and especially when you're in a divided, really deeply polarizing space and context, I feel like this is an opportunity for the church to really lead. Your thoughts?
I think you're absolutely right, and that's one of the reasons that our session, I think, will go ahead and take this kind of bigger dramatic stand, is to say we're just going to move into this space. But I think you're absolutely right. Just for what your states do, I mean, we're seeing, you're making the news and all that kind of thing, and we know that there are people there that's who they are not. And so for those of you who are navigating spaces that are much more ideological, politically diverse than where I am, I have prayers for you all, and comfort and courage and all that. So anybody want to respond to Catherine? Just go ahead and unmute yourself, introduce yourself, and go ahead and respond.
This is Scott. I'm fascinated by this in terms of the sacraments and the actions. So I'm thinking of how we've done communion on your model, Bruce, where we've done the sacrament in a way I feel is totally legit. Our church has gotten approved or got the green light to do ordinations of an installation of elders from our presbytery. I didn't mind asking that question because I didn't mind delaying it either if we had to. But the only thing they said, sure, go ahead. You just have to come back when you can and lay hands on folks. Like actual hands when you're able to be in the same room, which if that's what gets us to a yes, I'm fine with that. But just the thinking of why is laying hands like this not the same? What's the magic in the, but having the human touch. So just kind of going in between communion and ordination, is there some equivalent for baptism? Could you convince folks who aren't as comfortable with that, with their sacramental understanding of doing something like we've been talking about, and then saying, and we will come back and we'll do the water when we can?
Yeah. Oh, I think we'll get back to make sure we get to talking about kind of modeling, but I think in 6 months we're going to look back and see all the things that we were kind of struggling with right now and realize some of the things that we've held so dear are just not going to be. The fact that we're doing communion, 3 or 4 months ago, people were like, no way, we're not doing that. And so I think we're just going to look back and see, because the laying on of hands. So we're like, is it not really real then until that actually happens? I just feel like there's an opportunity to lead, not just communally, but ecclesiastically. And I think that's where I think some of us, if you're in communities where they're willing to do that, we're going to push through the wall for others and make it a little bit easier for places that are a little more divided and conflicted about that to go ahead and do it. And I realize that in my community, in the Presbyterian world, that if I get to help push through that with folks, it gets a little bit of, there's just a little bit of hype to it. So I want us to keep pushing out because I think it's still holy the way we gather. And so we're going to keep kind of pushing that out. All right. I want to ask, is there anybody else who want to respond just in terms, respond either about kind of leading through this in a community that's conflicted, the baptism question, or if you want to just jump in and share kind of what you're thinking about what is next. We have a few more minutes to be able to do that, but go ahead and just go. Susan, you've had your hand up for a little bit, so go for it.
Yeah, a little bit. Two things. One, I had a helpful conversation with someone with the Presbyterian Foundation that was saying they were hearing people say we're going to need to continue doing worship online even when we are able to return, but they didn't feel like they had the bandwidth for that. And the first thought that came to my mind was we are beginning to record our Zoom worship, but not putting it out live, primarily because of the intimacy. That intimacy seems like an overstatement. The interactivity that Zoom allows, that we can see each other and talk to each other in real time, and that is an important distinction from any of the live versions or pre-recorded versions. It's one of the things that's different. But we could record the service, share it online in Zoom later, so you don't have to do the service twice, but you can be in the room a second time for people who are available at a second hour. Like if you could record what happens in the sanctuary and then share parts of that in Zoom so that you're not having to do double duty.
Yep.
So that's one thought. The second thought, and again, we're back to context. 2 years ago, we started a conversation about a building campaign. Because we have this, I'm sorry, I pastor First Pres in Springfield, Illinois, otherwise known as Lincoln's Church. And when we say Lincoln's, I mean Mary Todd, not Abe. Mary was the member, Abe was spiritual but not religious. And we do have the pew with their butt prints in it, honest to God. But we have this big building that's inaccessible. We have had a desperate need for an elevator and some structural work. And we began a design charrette process in February before all this shut down. Our first Zoom meeting was our design charrette team meeting with the architects out of state. We have continued meeting that way. And so in the last 2 months, we have created floor plans and a budget for a capital campaign, all online. And our big concern had been, what are we gonna do with our mission and ministry while we remodel the building? And now I'm thinking, we're doing all of our work from home. Now is a great time for us to do demolition and reconstruction on the facility. And then there's this little thought that crawls up the back of my head that says, are we looking at building a structure that includes spaces for gatherings that we are not going to be able to use?
Mm-hmm.
In the same way we have an education building that was built in the 60s.
Right.
And our membership has declined ever since. I mean, what we have in mind is flexible space that can be used in lots of different ways and is accessible in ways that our building is not. And so all of that still feels right and good, but we may be not just months, but a couple years out from being able to gather in large groups again.
Yeah. Yeah.
Make me nervous.
Feel
Any encouragement?
Anybody want to offer a word of encouragement or for any of the group? Anybody want to chat? We've got a group of pastors here. I know you all can be encouraging and all that. So anybody want to offer anything as we kind of end our time? Thank you, Susan. You were such a great human being, but also wonderful pastor leading your folks. So thank you very much for offering. All right. Yeah, go ahead, Marty. Yep.
Yeah, I'm not a pastor. I'm a Christian educator, but
Awesome.
I'm often in groups with all the pastors. And so I'm in Savannah, Georgia, and our presbytery, I was at a gathering with all pastors, and I was the only non. Just this last week, they've been trying to meet regularly to kind of talk about things. And one of the things that I was encouraged by was that there seems to be a lean to not gathering until all are welcome. So while we have a majority of elderly folks in most of our churches, they're not going to come whether we open the doors or not because they're afraid. And so there's been, that we're not going to open the doors until all are welcome. Now, I don't know that every church in our presbytery feels that way. We have like 40 odd churches. But I know that that's been something that's been voiced by a few of the pastors. So I'm encouraged to hear that, maybe we start pushing those conversations with facilities committees on, using this time to make the sanctuary more welcoming for all and embracing this addition of media, and having this time and doing that maybe safely. And it might be a way to kind of push the ones that are dragging their feet that maybe want to gather tomorrow in the sanctuary, because we're in Georgia, so we have a governor that is pushing. And so I don't know that all of our churches are feeling that.
Right. Oh my gosh. I am going to liberate that phrase at session meeting tonight. I think that resonates greatly with our community. Until all are welcome. I think what a wonderful way to end our time. Thank you, Marty, for sharing that. So thank you all again for hanging out here. See you next Monday. Get in the Facebook group. I thank you for those of you that are inviting people to the Facebook group, because I know there's lots of groups and they're having these conversations, but trying to get folks over. I'm glad it's been helpful for people, and hope you have a great rest of the week. This is recorded and I'll post it in the next couple of days. All right, you all have a good week. Peace.